Happy National Bugs Bunny Day! And for those of you who didn't understand that, one moment. Happy National Bugs Bunny Day. Obviously, the hair is all messed up because of the costume. Let me just show you the inside of this. This was a pattern that I got off of Etsy. And I don't know if you can see, but there's tons of numbers in there. So all the pieces had to be cut out, and then the numbers had to be put together, and I have dropped my remote control. Let me get down there. So anyways, this started out last year, and I was looking for costumes and things to do, and I noticed that I had a little gap because of the way the days were falling of the last weekend in April. And so I started looking around. Sure enough, it was National Bugs Bunny Day on April the 30th. I thought, hey, that'd be great. I also did notice that, in fact, that there were commemorative stamps that had been put out in 2020 for Bugs Bunny. And that's because Bugs Bunny was 80 years old. So that was fun. So then we kicked around a lot of ideas for costumes and things. We eventually ended up wanting to do this particular costume. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I found the pattern, and that was so cool with all the kind of folding origami stuff. And I thought, I wonder if I could just make a paper costume. So that's what this is. This is all cardstock and foam core. This is all cardstock. And so, yeah, so the whole thing is put together with folded paper and that sort of thing. Not the best costume in the world if it's raining buckets, which it was yesterday. So I had these big garbage bags and I was putting everything in the garbage bags. But we made it. And then today the sun came out and everything has been wonderful. Anyways, in terms of what I wanted to talk about with Bugs Bunny, of course, Bugs Bunny's really good. But then this whole idea of origami and Bugs Bunny and paper and that sort of thing. I kept thinking about that, and I talked to a bunch of friends, and they gave me jokes about paper origami costumes, all that kind of stuff. And we just kept working, and then finally I came up with this bit. So there's a story about a couple of producers, and these producers produced Broadway plays. And they were looking at these Bugs Bunny stamps when they came out, and they got to thinking, man, Bugs Bunny. They did some research. They did find out that there was a Broadway show for Bugs Bunny in 1990, but it was only a musical review. Short run, 2 weeks, but they sold out every single show. So these producers are like, there is money on the table. Look at what happened with Lion King. Lion King's been on Broadway for 27 years. We need to do something with Bugs Bunny. So they decided, as part of their shtick and their spiel, that what they would do, the terminology they would come up with was, we need to get Bugs Bunny off the flat. We need to pull Bugs Bunny off of the flat. Okay, he's been in movies, he's been on TV, he's been on comic books, he's been on comic strips, he's been on stamps. We need to get him off the flat. We need to put him in a Broadway show. And then they were trying to think, what is the gimmick? What is the gimmick for the costumes? And they said, we know what we're going to do since we're getting him off the paper. We're going to take all of the costumes and we're going to make them out of paper. And we're going to call this thing Bugs Bunny Origami. It's going to be great. Bugs Bunny Origami on Broadway. So they got the show all together, and they did some really cute things. Like they got Porky Pig at the end to say, that's all folds. Folds. This is hard to do when I don't have a person's face because I don't know when they're getting the joke. That's all folds. And the other thing they did is they took each of the episodes, because each of the stamps represented a particular Bugs Bunny episode. And so they took each of the episodes and they renamed them having something to do with paper. So, for instance, this one, which is the one that I built the costume from, was originally called Rhapsody Rabbit. So they decided they would call it Rhapsody Rabbit. I know it's backward, but they spelled it with the W. So, lots of really cute things that they did with that. And they stood up this big show. They stood it up. And would you believe that Bugs Bunny Origami folded after a week. And then the producers tried to get it on pay-per-view, and that didn't go well at all. And they were thinking, what is going on? So they polled the audience, and they said, what's the deal? What's the deal? And the audience uniformly said, yeah, those paper costumes that you all made, they're terrible. Which just goes to show you, things may look good on paper, but it's really difficult, especially on Broadway, to pull a rabbit out of the flat. So there you go. So that was, thanks to all my friends for their help with that. It was so fun. Just keep talking to them and polling them and polling them and polling them. The reaction was really good to this. People loved it. Everybody kind of commiserated with me yesterday on the fact that it was raining so hard outside, and it only really did have one casualty, and that was I had everything in paper bags, and when I ran in, my bunny tail got soaked. And then when I put this on over the top of it, and this sort of sits over the top of the bunny tail, you know, by the time I get home, it was all just mangled and back because it absorbed so much water. But you know, all in all, we had lots and lots of fun. So there you go. Happy Bugs Bunny Day.